Hello, and welcome to Greet the Week. I'm Mona Duncan, and here with my co-host Jan Moray, and we have some people with us live. That's always good to have guests come along and friends, longtime friends come along. And today we're going to be talking about teaching a man to fish, or maybe just giving him a fish. You're familiar with the old adage of give a person a fish and you'll feed them for a day. But if you teach them how to fish, then you feed them for a lifetime, where they learn to feed themselves for a lifetime. But Jan has a little, this is her topic today, and she has a little twist to it. So Jan, what's your questioning about fishing?
Well, it's not about fishing per se. It's just using the old saying there about teaching and fishing, giving people food and teaching them how to fish. And I'm using it with regard to raising your children, but it can apply to just any part of your life. If you look at it, that if you're giving somebody a fish, if you're doing everything for your children, for example, and not allowing them to learn, if you rush into things when they start to do things wrong, if they're not tying their shoe the way you think they ought to do it, or they aren't working on a project the way you think they ought to do it, and you step in, then they become dependent on you. And you might think that you're helping, and we want to see people have whatever they want and to do things for people and to help them along. But sometimes we take away their independence or their ability to become independent, and they become dependent on other people, or they think that they're incapable of doing things, or maybe they don't even ever think that they need to do anything because somebody else already does it for them. And so I try real hard not to do too much for my kids, and sometimes I feel like if I'm doing too much, I'm enabling them not to learn to do it, or not to become responsible to do it. And even with Thanksgiving meals, when your kids are getting older, everyone's getting older and very capable, then sometimes it still relies on the mom who does all the cooking. and we're depriving our children of the experience of learning to cook together and being together. And we didn't have a huge crowd at our house like I thought we might, but everybody chipped in, and we were all working together. And part of preparing the meal for Thanksgiving was a lot of fun and really nice, having people together and pitching in and doing things. So I just thought I'd talk about what we do, and to just be aware of whether we're really helping somebody when we try to help them.
So if we give them a fish and we do it again and again and again, it becomes habitual, and so they just begin to expect the whatever it is to continue.
Right.
Like there's a never-ending flow, and not learning to do it for themselves or on their own.
Or even know that they can do it for themselves, because mom always takes care of this, so maybe I don't need to learn how to do that. Or you just don't even realize that it's happening until mom's not around anymore. It's like, well, who's going to do this now? I've never done it. I don't know how to get started. So just think about. I mean, it is a gift. Teaching somebody how to become independent can be looked at as a gift to them. I mean, you're helping them just as much, maybe more, than you would by just doing things for them.
Exactly. Although we can learn a lot by osmosis, just by observing it.
Well, we can.
Or being around it and seeing how it happens. Yet at the same time, that little intentional is very important. And I'm thinking about, whenever you were talking about that, and looking at the fact that if you just give it to them, they just come back again and again and again. And whenever I was doing social work and was doing the internship at the Salvation Army. And it was the people would come in and they would give them a voucher that they could go and get food, and $25 a month. They could get a voucher, which would help a lot. And back then it was more than it is today, definitely.
Right.
And anyway, there was a mom there, and she was talking with her child and telling them, when Caritas gave away, when Salvation Army gave away things, and was helping her children to learn the dates and so forth of when to go where that giving would be there. And it's wonderful that we do have those charitable places that can go and can do that. And she was trying to help prepare her daughter in a way that was the same time that I was the president of the YMCA, the joint YM and YWCA. And the national organization had a week without violence.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that week without violence, they was encouraging people to do things, for the community to come in and learn how to be self-supporting and get away from difficult things and things like that. And so I was doing an internship with the lady that was, talked with the clients. And through what I'm getting at is through the YMCA, I really latched on to that week without violence to let people know about it, And so I contacted again and again and again different agencies to see what they would offer during that whole week, that people could come at no charge and
Mm-hmm.
learn about things, how to take care of themselves and how to grow and learn how to fish, and maybe even have their own company fishing and helping other people be employed and have fish and that kind of stuff. And anyway, the point that I'm getting at is the lady who was and I was just observing, making notes and observing how she dealt with different clients and so forth. And I had told her I have the brochures there to just hand this to them because it's free, and most of the things are on a bus line that people could go to, And she wouldn't do it. She wouldn't give it to him. She wouldn't say anything. Finally, I got bold enough before the week was over. I just gave it to him myself. But anyway, my point is this. And so I said to her, why don't you give it to them? At least give them the information. And her thing was, things are never going to change. But her second point of view was, if they start getting all that stuff, then I'll lose my job.
Oh.
And I thought, oh, whoa, how sad, how sad, how sad to maybe be a part of a system that's going to keep people stuck where they are.
Yeah.
I mean, you may be helping them for a little while, but to keep them stuck.
Yeah.
And how, rather than being charitable, it is, I mean, of course, the old, rather than giving a hand out, give a hand up. And that's kind of what you're talking about with your children or with whomever, your employees, that maybe you can do something else.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough thing because you feel like you're needed and you're helping, but you're also enabling. I mean, you think about it with regards to addictions, like an alcoholic whose wife always covers for him and calls the boss and said, well, he's sick again today, and or drives him into work because he can't drive on his own, then there's no incentive for the alcoholic to quit drinking, or to at least be responsible the night before he has to go to work, so that he is able to get up to go to work in the morning. And so they never have to face the negative consequences of not doing what they need to do. And so, I mean, we think we're helping, we think we're being real nice to people, but sometimes it's not what they need. It's not what's going to help them grow. I mean, it's okay, every once in a while you see somebody who's down and having a hard time, and you want to help them out, and you give them a little loan, or help them find a job or something like that. But if it's day after day, week after week, you're allowing them to continue doing the things that aren't helping them.
Right. So just do what you can. So how do you do that? How do you begin to wake up to it?
Well, it's real hard because you end up feeling guilty. I think, because you think you should be helping this person, and you're saying no for once, and that feels bad to say no. You really have to be convinced that this is the best thing for them. It's time for them to grow up. It's time for them to learn to be responsible for themselves, responsible for their actions. And it's not up to me to make sure they don't get in trouble. I mean, I can't, with regard to children, I can't, once my kids are old enough to drive and leave the house and stuff, I can't be around them all the time to make sure that they don't hurt themselves and get into a mess. And so it's to teach them to be responsible, teach them to do the things that they need to do to be functioning adults, and to
So what would that conversation sound like? So here I am. I'm the child. And it doesn't have to be a child. It's like, your own kids,
right.
at whatever age, different age. And well, let me just go back with, I have an example. Okay.
Okay. All right. So we'll do a role play here.
Yeah. So it's a real role play. Is that a sibling in the it was Thanksgiving actually, and they hadn't been married very long, a sibling. And anyway, everyone was to bring something, and the person that was hosting it contacted all those that would be coming, all the different children and grandchildren and that kind of stuff that would be coming, and mapped out the menu. This is what we've decided for the menu. What would you like to bring? Mm-hmm. And so this one person volunteered, well, yeah, I'll just say the green bean casserole.
Okay. The staple at Thanksgiving. Yes.
Yeah. So I'll bring the green bean casserole. Well, whenever it came the day, and here everybody was bringing in their food, and bringing in their platters and bringing in the big bowls and all this, here this one person came in with her little 4-cup, smallest casserole thing there could be. And how do you handle that? How would you handle that, you being the one that had?
Well, something in that particular situation, I probably wouldn't say anything. I would probably thank them for bringing something, because with people who don't cook, they may not feel comfortable cooking a big amount and bringing stuff for people. But the fact that they did make the effort to bring something, I think in that particular case, I would focus on the effort that person made, instead of making a comment about only bringing something little. Now, if somebody, if that person had not brought anything at all, I probably would have made some comment as to, well, you're welcome to come here, but I appreciate in the future if you would attempt to bring something, because we're all in this together, and trying to have a family meal, and where everybody pitches in and does something. And I'd appreciate if you can even just go to the store and buy something. You don't have to make it. Just bring something, and bring something that's big enough so that there's enough for everybody, but not everybody gets a big portion. So you don't have to make a huge amount, but just something that we can all share.
So always appreciate the effort.
Right.
And so then it becomes habitual. I mean, you have 2 or 3 gatherings a year, and the one person just brings a minuscule amount. I mean, it's not that they don't want to bring, it's just small, as opposed to the number of people. Then what do you do?
Okay, so that's different if it's just the first time, or they do it every time.
Right.
So then, if that becomes a pattern, then they're not obviously either not seeing that everybody else is bringing bigger amounts or for who knows what reason they're continuing to make the little amounts. Just I would make a comment in private, not in front of everybody, but in private, saying, I appreciate what you brought, but we're feeding 13 people here. So can you make a little more so we can all try your wonderful food that you fixed us?
Exactly. Very good. Very good. Very good. Well, that was pretty much what my mom did.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. We had, all the family getting together, my brothers and sister and and their mates and everything. And the new bride in the family, every time she came, and people, with cousins and all that kind of stuff, was beginning to say, well, what she brings isn't enough. And my mom, kind of just talked to her. She's definitely appreciated it, but there's a lot, and we'd all like to taste it.
Right. Yeah. Put a positive light on, and like you're informing them. You're providing information that normally when you go to a potluck like this, which it is a potluck, you bring enough for everybody, but you don't have to feed everybody a full serving because everybody's bringing a bunch of stuff. But we all like to taste a little bit of what everybody brings. So it's more a providing information thing that in the future, if you could double or triple your recipe, that would be great.
Yeah. And then to begin to watch how the person receives it and grows in it and blossoms in it.
Yeah.
And realizing that
because I do think that you need to acknowledge the effort that was made and not put the person in an uncomfortable situation, because then they may feel resentful. They may begin dreading to come to these things. Oh no, I got to make something. Mom's going to make such a big deal about my not bringing anything or not bringing enough. But to encourage them and let them know that we all pitch in. We're a family. We're all pitching in. We're all doing things to help each other out. And nobody's supposed to take advantage of the rest of us.
Yeah. But if something like that goes on again and again and again, and it becomes generational, as you then begin to see, because we can speak up, we can always continue to hold people in high regard. But if they are not changing, have no seeming inspiration to change, how do you handle that?
Well, there's not a whole lot you can do. I mean, you decide whether they're still welcome in the house, and they can, of course, they're still welcome in the house, and they're choosing not to help, not to participate. That is their choice. But then you can try to make it more fun for the people who are contributing. And so then maybe at some point he'll feel left out because he's not part of that group where you're talking about, oh, this thing you made is so wonderful, it tastes so good, and give me that recipe and let me try this, and where you're having some kind of a bond that's being formed of the people who are participating, to make them think next time. But sometimes people just don't want to and don't care. And I remember growing up, I really never even crossed my mind, because my mother did all the work, but it wasn't a lot of work. Mother wasn't a big cook, so she a lot of times would cater it, have it brought in and stuff. But we never contribute anything. We were coming in from out of town, and she never ever said a word, and I never ever thought about it. It was like, well, Mother always took care of fixing the meal, so we just let her fix the meal and we just eat. and it wasn't until she got to the point where she was no longer able to cook, she wasn't cooking anymore, and then I took the job and started. At first my sister's like, well, let's go cater. So we did, follow that tradition of, buying it and bringing it in. And I said, this is a time for us to have homemade stuff. Let's not do all this catering stuff. So there's a few times when I did my husband helped me. We did the whole thing, but it was fun because I felt like I was contributing. I was paying back all those years where I didn't do anything. So, but then what really touched me is one time at Thanksgiving, we had quite a few people over at the house, and one of my cousins, we were going around the room talking about what are we thankful for, and my cousin, she said, "So I'm thankful for Jan for putting so much time and effort into making this meal." And I was like, "Oh, that feels good." And so, I mean, it just goes to making everybody feel welcome and showing that there is appreciation for those who do help, because when you hear something like that, it's like, okay, I'm going to keep doing this all the time because people do appreciate it. And when you are appreciated, and you get a feeling of accomplishment that you did it and you're able to pull it off. So it's
So accomplishment breeds accomplishment.
it does. Yeah.
And appreciation breeds appreciation.
Appreciation brings more of what you did. It keeps now the appreciation can be taken to an extreme where it's manipulative, and so I'm going to feed this to her and tell her how much I appreciate it, because I certainly don't want to do any of this work. I want her to do all the work. But there was one other thing I wanted to bring up about this whole independence and learning to fish, and there's a book called the Talent Code by Daniel Coyle. It was published quite a few years ago, but he studied people from different towns. Like there would be an Olympic champion who could come from a certain town, and then a few years down the road there'd be a whole nother batch of talented people from that same town, in that particular sport. And they'd go, well, why is that happening? Is it just that they've got good genes in that town, and so they breed good gymnasts or good skiers or whatever it is? And what they found out is the ambition. Once they found out that there was a person from this town that did very well in a sport, then they were motivated to become good at the sport. And if you had people with natural talents and natural abilities, they never did as well as those that had some kind of an incentive to do better and to build up their expertise. And so it's going like, when you've got natural abilities, you may not appreciate what it is that you have, but when you've got something that you're fighting for, you're striving for, you're gaining confidence, you're having success, and you're working on it, and you're getting better and better, that it keeps pushing you forward and helping you to do more. So when you can allow people to do things for themselves, then they gain confidence in what they're doing, and they can keep going and going and going and get even better than they ever would have on their own.
So it's that internal motivation. Once you get it, once you see it.
Right. So the internal motivation to just keep you moving and keep you focused and going forward. And nobody can do it for you. You have to do it yourself, where you're just getting better and better and doing things.
And creative.
And creativity. Yeah.
That once you try it and it kind of worked this way, but then you begin to get new ideas as anything that you really focus on begins to expand.
Right. I mean, you gain self-esteem, you gain confidence, you understand that there are things you can do instead of thinking that, well, I can't do anything about it. Well, what if you could, Mona?
Yeah, what if you could? What if you could? And so then we would take that little adage of give a man a fish and, they'll keep coming again and again and again.
Right,
but as you begin to help them learn to fish, or teach them how to fish, not only do they have enough to, feed themselves for a lifetime, but then talking about going on and on and on, that they've even opened their own business.
They might. They
Yeah,
might.
that they have become, going to the point that, and that sustained growth is sustainable.
It is sustainable. That's what makes, yes, absolutely. And you're always going to be able to eat. You don't have to depend on other people because other people aren't always dependable. And if you're looking for somebody else to be there in order for you to get what you want and do what you want to do, or you rely on your own innate talent, it may not always be there. Whereas if you learn how to nurture it and to train it and to push yourself forward, you gain confidence and say, I can do this. I don't have to depend on anybody else to get where I want to go. I can get there on my own. I got this. I can do this. And it's just such a much better place to be in, to know that you're independent and able to, you're going to get by, you're going to survive, instead of saying, oh my God, where's my next meal coming from? Who can I go to help me out here? That has to be a horrible position.
Even if it goes to actually planting a seed and growing it.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a good note to close on.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So thanks everyone for being here, and we appreciate your input, and stay around and we'll open up for chat.